What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we're going to be discussing a bunch of topics all about weapons in Destiny 2, like weapon mods and also some strange attachments that we saw in trailers, a rumor about Akimbo Weapons, some faction skins and foundries and swords, so quite a lot to go over and definitely some really interesting things I wanted to discuss. So firstly, let's talk about weapon mods, which is a confirmed system we know is in Destiny 2. It wasn't the build we played in LA, but in the trailers you can of course see all the primary, secondary and heavy weapons. They all have a category called weapon mod, and you can see no weapon mod is applied, so it clearly is something to affect the weapon, how it performs, but I'm doubting personally that this is something just cosmetic, like chroma that affects the weapon aesthetically. I think this is something that's going to affect the weapon in terms of its ability, so maybe it reloads faster, or has more ammo in the clip, or maybe there's a chance to return some ammo, things like that, but I'm thinking weapon mods is going to be something physical to the weapon. Now, something pretty strange that was shown off in one of the trailers was what some people are calling an example of a weapon mod, and this, as you can see right here, is actually a flashlight. It's very hard to spot, but you can see this Titan does have a little torch on the end of his weapon to see in the dark, of course. Now, this was a feature in Destiny 1 where your ghost would actually be a light in very, very dark areas. Not very common, but some areas you would put out the ghost and it would turn his light on. But I honestly don't think this is an example of a weapon mod. I don't think the two are related, although a flashlight is kind of example of what you think a mod might be, but a flashlight is completely useless. If you think about it, when are you ever going to use a flashlight apart from like two situations in the campaign where you're walking through a dark cave? So I think wasting a mod on a flashlight I think would be pointless. I think what's actually going on here is simply that this is a point in the campaign where you don't have your ghost around anymore. Of course, we're going to lose our light and our ghosts are somewhat dead until a certain point. But I think this is an area where we don't have a ghost available to us, and instead we have flashlights on our weapons instead of the ghosts. So that's what I think it is. But there you go, flashlights on the end of weapons are going to be apparently a thing in Destiny 2. So the next thing I want to discuss is a very interesting rumor that's been circulating recently about Akimbo Weapons, or dual wielding weapons, and this came from an interview with Game Rant, who are actually a gaming article, and they posted an interesting kind of quote from Mark Noseworthy, a Bungie developer, when they asked him about the kind of decision to have weapons in the new system there is now, so primaries and secondaries, and essentially how you can have hand cannons or sidearms in both the primary and secondary, and you can have two of the same weapon. And they took a quote from him and are suggesting that possibly we might get Akimbo Weapons in Destiny 2. And the quote was him saying, "The reason we've done this is because it gives players more choice. You can play the way you want to play, really change things up. You know, maybe we even have some interesting interactions between weapons at some times." So he's definitely hinting at something there, but is he hinting at Akimbo Weapons? Honestly, I think it's possible, but unlikely. I think Akimbo would be kind of a bit more a novelty than something actually useful. But there are definitely some weapons in Destiny 2 that would kind of match the idea of being held akimbo or dual wield. For example, SMGs, you could definitely imagine holding two of those. Also sidearms, and even maybe hand cannons, possibly. I mean, the kind of penalty would be you can't aim down sight, so you couldn't be very accurate, but you could be able to hose down a ton of bullets, so probably wouldn't be very useful in Crucible, but in PvE maybe. I can imagine just dual wielding SMGs and melting bosses up close, so it's possible, but I don't think it's very likely personally. But as always, I want to hear your thoughts down below. Do you think this is a bit of a stretch, or do you think it's possible we might see Akimbo guns in Destiny 2? So the next thing I want to discuss is to do with the factions, who have definitely been quite absent, and honestly throughout the entire gameplay reveal, all the trailers and keynote presentations, the factions, so Dead Orbit, Future Walker and New Monarchy, they were very absent and you couldn't really see all that much of them. Now, they were actually kind of sneakily embedded into the trailer. There are a couple seconds of footage that show both New Monarchy and also Dead Orbit, but there's actually nothing you can see of Future Walker. They don't appear to be in Destiny 2 so far. Of course, I'm assuming they will be, but in the trailer so far, nothing from Future Walker, only New Monarchy and Dead Orbit. But the very interesting clip that caught my eye is this gun right here, which is a green New Monarchy weapon, which is just so strange. Obviously, the entire idea of New Monarchy is red. Every single thing about them is red. You'll never see a different color other than red and white. It'll be just as strange as seeing a color other than black and white on Dead Orbit. So New Monarchy is always about red, but for some reason this guy has a hacker green New Monarchy weapon. So is this a weapon skin, or is it just the fact that New Monarchy might have different colors now added to the arsenal? It could be possible that you can now change the basic colors of some of these foundry weapons, but there you go. That is something pretty hard to explain in the trailer why it is the way it is and why it doesn't seem to match the normal New Monarchy color scheme. So next up, let's look at the brand new weapon foundry which has been announced for Destiny 2 that has been shown off quite a lot. You might have seen this logo, which is called Veist, I think is how it's pronounced. But this is the brand new weapon foundry, mostly styling this very kind of green and black pointy style of weapon. There are 3 examples of this foundry that we've seen so far, all 3 of which I got to use myself in LA. The gameplay is just me on the planet Nessus, just shooting these guns at the wall, testing them out to see what they feel like. So this is the SMG, as you can see. And one weird thing about these guns, they seem to fire this kind of green mist. I guess there's something unique about these factions, that this green mist seems to come out of the weapon, almost like a new element, but obviously it isn't because this one does arc damage. But these guns all seem to have this green theme to it, which is kind of interesting, and I guess unique to it. There's also this sidearm, which I wasn't really a massive fan of. Seemed very, very weak. Nothing like the Wormwood we've got right now in Destiny 1. This thing was very, very weak, but I guess it'll get buffed, and of course it's still early days, but that is the sidearm. And then, of course, there is this sniper rifle, which I got to use a couple times, but again, power ammo was very, very hard to find. But these are 3 brand new weapons in the Veist Foundry that we've seen so far. And then I also wanted to mention probably all of our favorite weapon type. That is, of course, the swords, and you can see a bunch of them in Destiny 2. The first interesting one that I noticed was actually on the back of Lord Shaxx. You can see a flaming Raise Lighter on his back, which makes me so happy. Raise Lighter is probably my favorite sword in all of Destiny, so I really love the weapon. I'm hoping that we get to use it ourselves, but I'm kind of doubting it. I think this one is just for Lord Shaxx. Kind of similar to Cade and his Ace of Spades. I think it's just his personal weapon. And also remember that Mega Bloks leak, which did say Lord Shaxx fighting a Cabal in the tower hangar. So again, it seems like that was 100% on point. And maybe in the campaign we'll see a scene of Lord Shaxx fighting a Cabal with this Raise Lighter on his back. There is also this very interesting design of sword on this Titan's back in the trailer, where you can see it's got white tape all over it. And also this one, which you can see as a pre-order bonus. Looks a bit like a machete, very interesting design too. There's this hunter who does a kind of mid-air slash in this Game Informer clip, but it's almost like he's trying to cut the guy's head off. It's a very violent swing, but a very cool animation at the same time. And also this Titan does a ground slam with this sword, which appears to do void damage and kind of melt the enemies away. But a ground slam does something very rare you can only see on the Young Wolf's Howl, and also the Sword of Crota, so hopefully it's a more common theme. A lot of cool animations, and I'm glad to see them fleshing out swords. I want to see just loads of different types and animations and things you can do with them. I think they've got potential for the most kind of creative weapons, so I'm really excited to see swords return in Destiny 2, and hopefully there are some really sweet looking exotic ones. So that has been a roundup of everything we've seen from a bunch of weapons in Destiny 2 trailers and gameplay clips. As always, if you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be much appreciated. Of course, subscribe for a ton more Destiny 2 videos right here on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.